This is a public hearing relative to the FY24 tax factor. Purpose of tonight's hearing is to first hear a brief presentation from the Chairman of the Board of Assessors, Patrick Greenhall. His presentation will be followed by public testimony from members who have joined us today, residents. For the public testimony, we'll begin with individuals who had previously signed up with the council office, and then once we exhaust that list, if there are any further individuals present virtually or in person to testify, we will take that testimony as well. I'm joined in the chamber this evening by Councillor Allen, the chair of the Finance Committee and the FY24 Tax Factor Committee. We're also joined by Councillor Govan and Councillor Whitfield, and we are currently joined virtually by Councillor Walsh, Councillor Click-Bruce, Councillor Hurst, and Councillor Davila. At this time, is the chairman of the Board of Assessors present?
I am, yes.
Mr. Greenhall, at this time I'd ask that you proceed with the required presentation prior to the public testimony component.
Sure. Is there any chance that the host can allow me to share the screen?
Yes, Focus will get on that, and I want to thank George from Focus for being here and helping us to manifest the electronic and virtual participation. So as soon as he has that permission authorized, Patrick, you'll be able to share that screen.
So in the meantime, I'm going to start. I think there's a few people who want to speak tonight, so I'm going to try to keep my presentation pretty brief. I know a couple of city councilors may have already seen this a couple times already. So tonight, again, my name is Patrick. I'm the chair of the Board of Assessors, and I'm presenting on behalf of the full Board of Assessors. Let's just see if this is set up. It's not quite yet. So in short, our role, we are the Board of Assessors. We are required to determine the full and fair cash value of all properties in the city of Springfield, including real estate and personal property. What does that mean? Full and fair cash value, it is the price on which a willing seller and a willing buyer will agree upon if both are fully informed under no compulsion. Real estate and personal property valuations are updated every year to ensure that they meet the standard of full and fair cash value. Okay, you should be able to see the presentation. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So the Department of Revenue, they are our regulating agency, and they are charged with certifying that the assessed values meet both full and fair cash value, and also that we, the city of Springfield, are in compliance with Proposition 2.5. The Department of Revenue certification of assessed values occurs once every 5 years. Springfield's last certification was last year in fiscal 2023. We are also required every year to update our values to reflect the full and fair cash value. This is called an interim year adjustment, and that is what we are in now. The key assessment dates, our fiscal year that we are talking about is fiscal 24. That runs from July 1st of 2023 to June 30th of 2024. We're looking at all of the legal descriptions and ownership as of January 1st of 2023, with a physical status as of June 30th of 2023. Our values, just a general overview of our values. Our single family home values did increase from fiscal 23 to fiscal 24 by 10.8%. Condominiums increased by 16%. Two families increased by 14.7%, and three families increased by 22.8%. So the market has remained very strong, and we are looking at calendar 22 sales. A brief overview of Proposition 2.5. This is a law that went into effect in 1982, and it is a general limit on the property tax levy, and there's three separate important components to this. The levy, this is the revenue that is raised through the assessment of real and personal property to partially pay the city budget. I say partially because there could be other funding sources, including the state. The levy limit, this is the maximum amount typically that a municipality can levy, and it is a historic figure based on the prior year's levy limit. The prior year levy limit is then increased automatically by 2.5%. And then we also add in any new growth. I would just point out that the prior year's actual levy is not used in this calculation, but it is the levy limit. The levy ceiling, this is the maximum amount the levy limit can be in any given year, and it's just a calculation based on 2.5% of the City of Springfield's total taxable real and personal property. As applied to fiscal 24, our fiscal 23 levy limit was 252 million. So you add 2.5% increase to that, that's 6.3 million. On top of that, you add in any of the new growth, which was 6.1 million. So our fiscal 24 levy limit is 265 million. New growth. New growth is an increase in the annual levy limit that reflects increases in the tax base since the prior year. It is a recognition that new development typically requires additional costs to the city. For example, new houses do require additional services, including school, police, fire services, and trash pickup. Additionally, new growth also includes any items taxed for the first time, and most of our new growth is in the personal property category. And here's a breakdown of our new growth for fiscal 24. So most of it was in personal property. This is a chart just showing our general overview of our revenue sources. So we are funded, 62% of the City of Springfield is funded by state aid. What we are talking about here tonight is the property tax category, which is 29.9% of our overall budget.
Patrick, could you just quickly go back? I just didn't catch the new growth breakdown. Okay, residential is 968. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Assessor. I'm going to ask that folks, including those virtually, hold their comments until the public speak out testimony. Patrick, you can resume.
The general drivers of the budget increase for between fiscal 23 and fiscal 24, we had a school department increase of transportation, which increased by 2.8 million. Our pension liability payment increased 5.5 million. Employee benefits increased 1.7, and we had numerous union settlements as well. The levy reduction. So since fiscal 21, the City of Springfield has tried to offset the increases in taxes by using free cash to lower the increase. So in 21, we used $1 million. In fiscal 22, it's 2.5 million. In fiscal 23, we used $10 million. And in fiscal 24, it is a total of around $8 million. That was a total of $21 million used since fiscal 21 for an average savings to the average taxpayer of $323 over those years. I would note that this is using free cash is a one-time revenue source, and there were some unique circumstances that led to kind of a significant number of free cash for the City of Springfield. This will dry up, however, so there is a recognition of the decrease from $10 million that we used in 23 to $8 million in fiscal 24. The City Council's role in the tax classification. Now, it's really important to note that the City Council has adopted the budget, and that was done before July 1st. So this is the really unfortunate time where a budget was adopted, and now we have to pay for that budget. The actual tax levy is not established until the Department of Revenue reviews and approves the assessed values and our new growth. So at this point, the City Council must adopt a residential factor. It is critical that this happens before December 1st in order for the city to actually generate timely tax bills. The residential tax factor. This is the opportunity where the City Council can choose how to shift who pays the taxes. So the City of Springfield could choose a single tax rate, which we'll talk about in a moment. But for fiscal 24, that would be $20.48 for both the residential would pay that and commercial. But the City of Springfield has opted to shift some of that tax burden from residential to commercial. The maximum that we can shift is 1.75, and I'll show you that on the tax rate sheet. This is showing you the shift just in chart form. So in fiscal 23, our total assessed values for commercial, industrial, and personal property was 23.06%. But by shifting the taxes from the residents to commercial industrial, they actually pay 39.11% of the levy. And conversely, the residentials make up 76.94% of our total value, but they've paid 60.89% of the levy. A chart showing our average tax bills compared to surrounding communities, and Springfield is the lowest. Our average tax bill in fiscal 23 was $3,677. A chart showing where Springfield kind of compares to other area communities with their tax increases since 2015. So yes, our taxes have increased, but this is typical for most municipalities. We do have some personal exemptions that somebody over the age of 65 or 70 could qualify for. There are some asset and income restrictions to these. If someone is blind, they could file an abatement with the Board of Assessors as well, or a veteran under certain conditions. But if someone has a disability of 10% or more, they could qualify for an exemption as well. People can also qualify for the Community Preservation Act exemption. What's not on here that I would like to point out is the circuit breaker. And this is for someone over the age of 65 who can file a state tax return, and depending upon their income and the amount of taxes that they've paid, could be entitled to a taxable, a refundable tax credit. We have a couple of required votes by the City Council tonight. The first vote would be a stabilization transfer for the tax levy, and this would be approving approximately $2 million from the stabilization to the fiscal 24 revenue to help reduce the tax burden on all property owners. The second one would be an additional free cash transfer of $1 million from the fiscal 23 free cash, again, to help offset the tax levy. Once both of those, or if both of those are approved, we move on to adopting the actual residential factor. And that brings us to this chart. And these are the options that the City Council can choose. They are required to select one of the residential factors. Last year's a similar factor would result in tax rates of $16.23 and $35.17. The average tax bill would go up $196. The mayor is recommending that we go to reduce both the commercial and the residential tax rate down 91 cents. So we would go from $17.05 for a residential tax rate in fiscal 23 to $16.14. For commercial, it was $36.40 in fiscal 23, and the proposal would go to $35.49. That would result in a $175 tax increase for the average single family tax bill. I would just point out that without using the free cash, the average tax change would have been $221. The maximum that we can go to is 1.75, and that line is highlighted in red. So our options are anywhere from a 1 to a 1.75, and the mayor is recommending a SIP shift of a 1.7325 or the residential factor of 0.7879. With that, I will conclude my remarks. I know there's a few people who do want to talk. So I will hand it over.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We're going to proceed now to receiving public testimony. I do want to make note that technically, just legally, the way that we have to schedule the meetings, we scheduled the hearing for 5:30 and then the vote for 6, but we are going to ensure that everybody who is here to be heard is heard, as well as those virtually. And so at some point, it may be necessary for me to technically gavel in the next meeting, but we will then return to public comment if that occurs, and I'll let folks know where we are on that. So we're going to begin, as I said, with the individuals who are signed up with the body. When your name is called, we ask that you step forward. I will also call the individual who is after you, so you can queue if you are able. That will cut down on some of the time in between speakers. We ask that you would keep your remarks kindly to 3 minutes in accordance with the rules of the council to ensure that everybody who has signed up is able to be heard this evening. The first individual who is signed up is Erica Cruz, and the next individual is Diana Langle. So we'll begin with Ms. Cruz, and we ask that you just begin by stating your name and address for the record.
Hello, City Council members. My name is Erica Cruz, and I live at 155 Allen Park Road in Springfield. I'm here to express my deep concerns regarding recent proposals in the increase of property taxes in our city. While I understand the necessities of finding various civic initiatives, I believe it is critical to consider the potential harm it may inflict on our retired senior residents who have contributed significantly to our community over the years, such as my mother, Judith Torres, who is a retired educator of the Springfield Public Schools. Excuse me, I have social anxiety, so.
You're doing fine.
Just like my mother, retired seniors who live on a fixed income, relying on savings, pensions, and Social Security cover their expenses. As residents of Springfield, the retired seniors are struggling to keep afloat with these increased property taxes. Increased property taxes would force them to make difficult choices, such as cutting back on essential needs such as medications and nutrition, or even putting them at risk of homelessness. These issues resonate with my mother, who lives on 145 Jasper Street. Her home is fully paid with no mortgage payments. However, the taxes that are increasing are making it hard for her to pay them and even pay her other bills. I encourage you to consider alternative solutions that would not disproportionately impact individuals who are retired seniors of this population in Springfield. Perhaps exploring more efficient ways to allocate existing funds that we have in the city of Springfield, seeking federal or state grants, or engaging in public-private partnerships that would provide alternatives to prevent the increase of property taxes. Additionally, I propose an establishment of a committee significantly focused on assessing the impact of such tax increase on retired senior residents. This group could work collaboratively to find solutions that balance the city's financial needs as well as its seniors population. I appreciate the challenging decisions you face in managing our city's finances, and I trust you that you will consider the unique challenges faced by our retired citizens of Springfield. Your commitment to fair and equitable solutions will strengthen our community and reflect the values that we hold so dearly. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. The next individual is Diana Langle. Is Diana Langle present?
Do you mean Zinal?
Well, it says here on my page Diana Langle, but Diana, if you signed up to speak out,
I think it's me.
okay, we'll go to Diana Zinal then.
Sorry.
Diana, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you so much. I am Diana Zinal. I'm president of the Springfield Regional Chamber, and I appreciate the chance to speak before the council and represent the interests of Springfield businesses. The Springfield Regional Chamber supports Mayor Sarno's recommendation for the city's fiscal year 2024 property tax rate, which would reduce both the residential and the commercial, industrial, and personal property tax rates. We understand and applaud the mayor's need to provide tax relief to the city's residents, but we also appreciate the fact that the mayor recognizes the challenges which continue to face our business community, like higher interest rates, ongoing inflation, workforce challenges, and continued disruptions to the supply chain. Through his extra investment of $1 million to offset tax rates citywide, the mayor has found a way to balance the needs of both residents and businesses because the chamber cares about the residents as well as the businesses. So we think that the proposed tax classification split is fair, and we hope that the city council will approve the recommendation of the mayor.
Thank you, Diana. We'll go now to Juan Latore, and just before Mr. Latore's testimony, I want to recognize that Councilor Curran and Councilor Fenton have joined the hearing virtually. Mr. Latore.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, councilors. My name is Juan Latore, 122 Forest Hills Road in Springfield. Thanks for the opportunity to speak on the proposed tax rates. And thank you for the tax rate setting committee for your work on behalf of the city. Like the Board of Assessors had said, the money's already been agreed to be spent. It's just a matter of how we're going to choose to spend it and who's going to spend it. And there's just a couple of thoughts that cross my mind that I want to share in hopes that the councilors will ask some of these questions tonight. I have advocated for the city to implement the senior property tax work-off program. I immediately thought of that when the first individual provided testimony tonight, and I hope to see that implemented to further help seniors in our community, and I hope we'll talk about that tonight. A lot of discussion's been brought up about Eversource money, and I hope that the city and the councilors can work to educate the public on how much of that money has been spent so far and how much is left, because the most recent certified free cash amount was pretty dramatically lower compared to the year before. And I agree with Mr. Greenhall that it is going to dry up soon. I also saw in that assessment that the tax ratio we're getting very close to that 1.75 factor, where we're going to eventually, probably within a year it seems, lose the ability to shift any more towards businesses. And that's going to be a tool that we've lost. I hope that the council will really kind of work with the Board of Assessors to talk about what the next couple of years look like. I want to give my respect to Freddie Lopez. He had a great quote in the paper today talking about identifying a potential outside consultant to find ways to reduce costs. And my thought is we've also got to look at some ways to increase revenue in the city, because it seems clear to me as a resident, we're going to continue to see year-over-year budget increases in the range of 4 to 8%, and I think this is going to continue to be a burden on property owners and businesses in the city. But I'm especially concerned about seniors, young families trying to purchase a home, families trying to stay in their homes. But with that, I appreciate the money that has been used to reduce the levy. I thought the bond strategy to raise some money was a great strategy by councilors, and I'm appreciative of the additional $1 million to further offload. And I thank you all for your work and the opportunity. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Latore. The next individual signed up is Rhonda Hall, and after Rhonda Hall is Esther Hudson. Ms. Hall.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Rhonda Hall Reynolds. I am at 74 Waldorf Street in the Pine Point area. And I was really moved by her speaking about her mother, who is a retired educator. As you see, I am an active educator right now. And I'll just let you know, we are here and we're trying to work and we're trying to push our kids forward and be in the city, and we just can't afford another tax hike. It's been happening year after year after year. I've been a homeowner for over 30 years. My mom retired from the school system as well. She's an educator. She was an educator. We have a home there for 50 years. We can't afford it. And so I don't know exactly how you're going to make it happen, but we need to really think about you. This is the city of homes, and it's going to be unfortunate if I can't afford to live in my home. And so from the bottom of my heart, I just ask that we just think about it and think about the people who are going to work every day and trying to educate our kids and the teachers. And we need your help in other ways. We need relief. We don't need more burdens. So thank you for your time, and thank you for your consideration in this matter.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Next individual is Esther Hudson. Is Esther Hudson present? And following Ms. Hudson is going to be Ternace Morris. And if I'm mispronouncing anything, this is just how it's spelled on my form. But Ms. Hudson, the floor is yours.
Yes, good afternoon or good evening. Thank you for the opportunity of being here. I certainly can sympathize and relate to what the two individuals prior to me have spoken on. I, too, am a senior. I'm Esther Hudson at 182 Tyler Street here in Springfield, and I've been at my home over 30 years. And I have to say that months ago, I spent about a half an hour on the phone with the assessor's office discussing why the increased tax took place and why it was so much. I mean, it was hundreds of dollars within one quarter. So, I mean, that certainly puts a substantial dent in your limited budget. I'm on Social Security, I'm retired, so limited income. And at the end of the conversation, I was basically told, well, that's just the way it is. What's happening in your community is really impacting the value of your homes. And I said, I'd like you to come to my residence and stand at my front door when I look across the street and see two homes that have been boarded up for years. And I've actually had to encounter additional expense because rodents, I mean, go into these properties. And for months and months, I consistently called because the windows were open and I could see squirrels going in and out of the property and birds and so who knows what. But now I am on a budget plan because I want my home to be clean. And so that's additional expense I've encountered, but yet I am advised that the value of my home and the taxes, rather, have increased based on the homes in my area. You cannot convince me that looking at these homes right across the street from me is increasing the value of my home. I believe one of the homes, the value is placed at $30,000. That is doing nothing for my property value. But that's pretty much the extent of it. There are numerous people on my street in the neighborhood, and we've had conversations. They don't tend to want to come out in public, but they say the same thing. How could our value be increased based on what we're experiencing every day, day to day, consistent calls, but not necessarily seeing any results? But I thank you again for the time and the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Hudson. Ternace Morris, or of something of that nature? Ms. Morris?
It's Pernice Morris.
Pernice Morris.
With a
Thank
P.
you. I'll make sure that's corrected in the record.
Hi, I'm Pernice Morris. I live at 45 Wilbraham Avenue. I've been a resident for 23 years there. Everything these young ladies and everybody is saying, I agree with. But before you raise your taxes, won't you take time to look at people's income? And the ones that have a certain amount of income don't raise their taxes, you know, because it's hard enough. I know people that instead of buying houses in Springfield, they moving out of Springfield to buy houses because it's too expensive. You know, my daughter, she just bought a house in Chicopee because the taxes is much cheaper. Everything is much cheaper in Chicopee, you know. I just wanted to say, just please look at everybody's income before y'all decide to raise the taxes, because it's not fair for certain people that's living on a certain budget. Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Ms. Morris. The final individual who is signed up to speak out is Richie Allen, and he is participating virtually. Mr. Allen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening to the members of the City Council. I have some history with this issue, but what I'd like to just state at the outset is that the levy increase of $14.5 million is the largest in the city's history. Last year, the levy increase was just under $5.2 million. Over the last 40 years, there have been 3 other instances of a levy increase in excess of $10 million. At 14.5, it's the largest in the city's history. And while that is a consequence of the council adopting the budget proposed last June, it's not 100% or entirely a consequence of that. So I guess I would suggest to the council that there are a couple of options. They may be very remote in the likelihood of occurring, but the way I see it, there are 2 options. Persuade the administration to reduce appropriations. It's a difficult thing halfway through the fiscal year, but the appropriation level is really dictating what's happening with the levy increase. And the second option would be to persuade the administration to increase the amount of free cash devoted to reducing the levy. While $1 million is an improvement, I think there's more opportunity to increase or expand that free cash allocation to the tax levy. And based on the eloquent testimony of the previous members of the public that have spoken, I think the demographics of Springfield indicate that the present is challenging, and I fear that the future is really troubling, and we're heading for some very strained financial times. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. So that does exhaust the list of folks that had signed up previously. As I stated, we do want to make sure, though, that individuals who have come out to be heard are heard. And so first thing I'd like to do is ask if there are any individuals present in the chamber currently who would like to speak but have not yet spoken. And if so, we'd ask that you please step forward to the podium and form a queue. We'll take those individuals, and then we'll go to anybody who is present virtually. And so, Mr. Lopez, certainly, please state your name and address for the record.
Hello, I'm Wilfredo Lopez, 111 Wollaston Street. Pretty much lifelong resident. Got here when I was 3 months old. Been doing real estate in Springfield for 23 years. And what has happened in Springfield is the property values have gone up to the point that people who live in Springfield cannot afford to pay a mortgage to live in Springfield. So a lot of them are forced to rent. We're providing the option of going into a 2-family, a 3-family to have tenants assist you with the rent. But an average median home is like $290, where it was $180, $170, $150 for a long time. So it's great for the city of Springfield to see this type of growth. It means that it's a place that people are coming to live. In the last few months, I've sold a number of properties. Well, our organization has sold a number of properties to people who are coming from that work about an hour and a half away, an hour away, you know, towards Boston, some people even towards deep in Connecticut. But because of interest rates being so high, a lot of people have been priced out. And we're talking about people who make $40,000, $50,000 a year, you know. A lot of them have just been priced out. So I don't think anybody expected that. I think the residents who lived here didn't expect that to happen all at once. I do commend, you know, the city of Springfield to be in a strong financial position. But again, as has been mentioned multiple times, I don't think that what we're doing today is going to bring any relief to the taxpayers no matter what we do. And I feel like we're repeating this every year. I think this year people actually heard us a little more, which is good. But something has to be done when it comes to the budget. And again, the mayor and the staff have done an excellent job of keeping us above water. I can't get into the details of the budget because I'm not part of that process. But I do recommend that the city council create some type of review board for the budget that you can go more into detail on that, because us setting the tax rate is basically what we're challenged to do is to determine what portion of the taxes are going to be paid by the residents and what portion is going to be paid by the businesses. And like, you know, Richie just mentioned, property values are probably not going to go down anytime soon unless there's an unforeseen crash or a recession. But Springfield property values are still a lot lower than the rest of the state, except for certain places in Western Mass, let's say. But overall, I agree. It's these burdens that have the people who have been here for a long time dedicated to the city, building it up to the point that the property values have gone up. It's a great place to live. It's a great place to raise kids. Our schools have come a long way. Our whole community has come a long way. And I just really want to challenge the city councilors and the mayor's office as well to make sure the next year that we're here that we see a decrease. And there's easy ways of doing it. I just think you guys have to work together. I appreciate all of you guys and everybody who spoke out. It's a real serious matter. $120 might not seem like a lot, but when you're on a budget, that's a lot of money. I mean, most of these people don't have cable. They're squeezing the Netflix, or they're even when they
Mr.
go.
Lopez, I'd ask you to wrap your comments up in the interest of time.
Okay. I just say, I just want to challenge you guys that next year we come back for an actual increase for the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Is there any further individual present in the chamber who would like to be heard? Ms. Crump? And the individual here as well. I'd like to say welcome to my neighbor.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Lorraine Crump. I'm 82 years old. I have been living in Springfield all of my life. Growing up, my family couldn't afford to buy homes at one time. And when I look back on what homes cost back then and what they're costing now, I feel rich. I can afford a house. I live on $940 a month. Yet I've had my house since 1973. I'm on the verge of losing my home. I don't want to lose my home. Where am I going to go? I live by myself. I stay in the dark to keep my light bill down. I keep my oil down with a coat on, socks on. That's not the way a person is supposed to live when we see so many people who are rich right here in Springfield. They can afford these taxes. We can't. We can't. I live by myself, and my bills are coming in, and I'm like, dear God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm too old to rob a bank. So what can I do? All I ask is that once you get to be 82 years old, we shouldn't be paying bills like we're paying them. They should all be cut completely in half. I've been paying bills all of my life. I've been paying taxes all of my life, just about. I'm paying taxes and I can't get out. Come on, my house is falling down. I'm in a nice area. I live on Thompson Street. I moved there because it was beautiful. My zip code is 01109. And do you know I can't get anything because my zip code is 01109? That's not fair. That's not fair. And all I say is, stop thinking about yourselves because you got money. Think about us who have struggled and got this far, and now you want to take what we got away? Come on, you're not getting my house. I'm not moving out. If you come to take it, I'm staying. You're going to have to pick me up and carry me with every piece of furniture that you take out of my house. I'm not giving it up. I struggled too hard, and I want to keep it. I don't have much longer to live. Don't kill me yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crump. And I know there was another individual present in the chamber who wished to speak. At this time, we'd ask you to come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, and thank you for having us here today. My name is Kimberly Caldwell, and I live at 50 Los Angeles Street. That was such a powerful speech to speak after. I am not retired, but my taxes have gone up as well. And they have been going up and I'm a lifelong resident of Springfield. I was born and raised here. And to just see the taxes go up, but I kind of don't see what the taxes are doing in the city of Springfield. Let's start there. So if you're going to continue to make them go up, let's see. I have to call about my street getting paved. We have to call about certain things that we shouldn't have to call on if the taxes are continuously going up. They're just not affordable. They're just not affordable. I'm not on a fixed income because I do have a full-time job, but I don't want to spend $176 more on taxes. I don't. I feel like I could be spending that on something different other than paying for the Springfield city taxes. So I want them to really think about the young lady that came on and spoke. She said, I propose, I'm in agreement. I'm not good at names and remembering who is who, but she said she proposed, she agrees with it. How do you agree with it? I get that they dug in their pockets and kind of pulled out $1 million to help us to keep it lower, but it shouldn't be going up, period. If you can pull $1 million, pull a little bit more. And this year, just say, for the sake of this year, we're gonna leave the taxes alone for the city of Springfield. We'll think about it again next year. But right now, I don't understand how anyone who sits in this council, who represents all of us here in the city of Springfield, can say, yes, it's okay to go up with the taxes. $176, $250 is too much. Keep them the way, just leave it. We put in enough money already. Leave them the way they are. Think about it. Take time to think about it. Let it sit for 1 year and then come back next year and look at it. It's a lot. I'm listening to the elderly speaking here. That's painful. My parents are in Florida. That's painful to hear this wisdom speak about losing her home because the taxes are going up. Her house is paid for. They can't afford it. I can't afford it. The city of Springfield can't afford it. And if you can afford it, good for you. But look out for everyone else who can't. It's just not about you. If you can afford it and you think $176 is not a lot, well, that's good for you. But think about your neighbor. Think about your brother or your sister, who it may be a lot for, and just put it off until another year, and we'll come to the table again at that time. Thank you for my time. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Are there any further individuals present in the chamber? Ms. Stutz?
Good evening, everyone. I'd just like to say that I agree with everyone in the audience on what they've said, and I'm not going to, or at least I'm going to try not to repeat it. I am 77 years old. I live at 77 Westford Circle in the Upper Hill. I am sandwiched between Springfield College and AIC, and I'm going to keep harping on this. They're nonprofits. They do not pay property taxes. And every time they buy a property, that's more of a burden on us. And so I propose that there be a cap on big nonprofits purchasing property in the city of Springfield. This is supposed to be the city of homes, but the rate we're going, it's not going to be. It's good. We're all going to leave. So the other thing is that I think that we should start looking at the property taxes much sooner, the rate much sooner than a few days before the deadline, and look at some other things that are possible that we talked about last night to see if we can come up with more revenue to offset the taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stutz. Are there any further individuals present in the chamber who wish to be heard this evening? Seeing none, are there any individuals present virtually who have not yet been heard who would wish to be heard as part of the public record? If there are, I'd ask that you raise your hand. Attorney Kern, I see your hand. However, we're gonna have debate amongst the council momentarily. Are there members of the public virtually present who would wish to be heard for public speak out that has not yet been heard? If there are, we'd ask that you raise your hand, or if you do not know how to raise your hand, we'd ask that you unmute and in some way allow me to know that you are looking to be heard this evening. Seeing none, we are going to adjourn the public hearing, and then we are going to reconvene in 60 seconds for the scheduled special meeting where we will take up votes on the stabilization transfer, the certified free cash transfer, and our first round on the tax factor. Thank you all. I didn't know.